If you've been uploading print-on-demand listings on Etsy and they're just sitting there and not selling, this video is for you. It's not because Etsy is oversaturated or that POD or print-on-demand is dead. It's because most sellers are missing 5 critical pieces. And once you have those pieces, everything changes. So let's break it down. So, first off, we're going to break this down into 5 key points. But first off, if you do not know me, my name is Robert Blaz. I am a multi-six-figure print-on-demand seller that started selling print-on-demand on Etsy in January of 2024. I am now doing this full-time and I've done close to 500K now in revenue, and I am now teaching others how to do the same. So without further ado, let's just hop into these 5 critical pieces. So the first key point we're going to talk about today is none other than your niche, right? Now this is where everything starts. Before you even pick a product, before you do anything else, you should be looking at what niche are you targeting? Who are you selling to? So that is a key point. If you do not know who you are selling to on Etsy, how can you expect to succeed? So, first off, under this niche, one mistake I see quite often is no search volume. Okay? Now, we are not just picking random niches and selling in them. We need to make sure and validate that there is actual search volume for the niches we're going into. Now, one thing that I do recommend to beginners on Etsy is to not limit yourself to one niche, right? We don't want to limit ourselves to one niche because we don't necessarily know 100% if it's going to work. So I recommend opening a general store to start out with on Etsy and figuring things out and seeing what actually sticks. And then later on, you can open a new shop and have a branded shop. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both. But as a new seller on Etsy, I recommend a general store. So the next point here is to use tools, right? Use tools. So what I mean by that is use tools like Everbee or eRank to determine if there actually is search volume for that niche you're going into. And by niche, I mean things like weddings, pets, sports, whatever it is, right? Those are niches. So you need to know if there's actually demand for that niche. And to do that, there are great tools like Everbee and eRank. Now I have an Everbee affiliate link down below in the description, which you can go check out. It's just a monthly fee, and it's a very, very great tool to actually analyze the market and see what is actually viable and what's worth your time. So next key point is that you need high demand products. Okay, high demand products. And why do I have this under niche, you might ask, is because a lot of the time they kind of go hand in hand. You obviously want to choose a product that caters to that niche, right? So say, for example, your niche is a pet. You sell pet gifts, like gifts for the pet. So you're not going to go and choose products like, let's say, a journal, right? You're not going to sell a journal to somebody that's buying a gift for their pet. A gift for the pet would be more like something like a dog collar or a dog bowl, which is, by the way, something you can do with print on demand. And that's, sometimes people just think that it's just t-shirts or sweatshirts you can sell with print on demand, but the market is growing like crazy over the past few years, and the product choice or the product catalog we have at our disposal nowadays is massive. So try and think outside the box. You got to get products that are also in demand. They need to speak to your niche, first off, and also the product should be in demand. And that's another thing you can also analyze with tools like Everbee to actually see if there's search volume for that specific product on Etsy. And if it's not on Etsy, maybe it's on a different platform. So then maybe you can use things like Google Trends or figure out if there are best sellers on other platforms with that product type. So say a dog bowl. Let's just say dog bowls aren't something that's selling on Etsy yet, but they're selling like crazy on Amazon. That means there's a good chance that they'll also sell well on Etsy. So that is the number one thing I see. So this is in kind of chronological order. So niche is kind of like the first thing. So let's go to the next thing. So the next thing I see quite often is design, right? Design is key, right? And this kind of ties back into our product choice and our niche choice. Our design should also speak to our niche. So, first point here we have design. One of the main things I see actually is do not copy best sellers. Okay? We do not want to copy best sellers. Why is that, you might ask? It's because everybody else is copying best sellers. That's one thing. The other thing is it's not allowed to copy. You're not allowed to copy on Etsy, right? You will get into trouble. You might get your shop shut down. We do not want to copy best sellers at all. Just stay away from that. We want to come in with unique angles that actually make us stand out. Number two is you should combine design elements. Now this is much, much different than copying, right? We are actually figuring out what sells well, and we are maybe finding multiple products that sell well with different designs, and maybe we're combining the designs into one unique design, right? So think about that as well. Think about how you can combine different elements. So say, for example, wedding and people that like to hike. So maybe you're doing some sort of product with a hiking theme, but for a wedding couple. So a couple's gift for a wedding, something like that, right? That's what I mean by combining design elements into one unique product. Another thing you should do is offer personalization, right? So if you don't know, personalization is when the customer can actually add like their name or a date or an address or their own photo or whatever it is to the actual design, and they will get a customized product essentially. Now, Etsy is a platform where shoppers go to purchase gifts or purchase memorable keepsakes for themselves or for others. And this is one way we can utilize uniqueness or personalization to actually stand out from the market, because not everybody offers personalization. And this kind of comes back to, again, combining design elements. Maybe you combine some things and then on top of that add personalization, which adds value, right? So we're adding value to it and we are standing out. Another thing here is design speaks to customer, right? The design has got to speak to that customer. And we've already touched on this, so we're not going to go into too much detail here, but your design needs to cater to the customer. It needs to cater to emotions. What emotions does that customer have? What will they feel when they buy that product? Is it some sort of memorial gift, right? Will they be sad when they purchase? Will they be happy when they purchase? What will it look like when, say, they're buying it for somebody else? Will that recipient start crying because it's such a memorable, unique gift, right? These types of things you've got to think about and add that to your design. You'll have a much, much better chance of actually selling and making money on Etsy. So next up, we have let's see. Next up, we have traffic, right? Traffic's key. If we don't have traffic, we don't get seen. We don't get seen, we don't get sales. So traffic is very, very, very key. And by the way, if you're looking for more hands-on help, there's a video linked down below in the description, which is an explainer video of how you can potentially work with me, and I will help you coaching more one-to-one. If you're serious about growing an Etsy shop, go down there. You can watch the video for free. And at the end of the video, you can also book a call with me for free if you wish. So go ahead and check that out in the description below. So back to it. Traffic, we have, what you want to do is combine long tail keywords in your title. Okay? So we got to think about how is the shopper going to be searching on Etsy? What are they going to be typing to look up the listing we are selling? We want our listing to target or pop up when that person actually types that specific phrase. So we need to combine long tail keywords so we get ranked for the most things possible, but also we need to think about how is the customer actually typing. So don't just go ahead and describe your product. Like, don't just say 9-ounce gray tumbler with straw. Nobody's going to be looking that up. Etsy's way more unique than that. That customer potentially is looking up wedding, maybe they're looking up bridesmaid tumblers for wedding. Something like that, right? That would make more sense. That's how the customer is actually typing into search. So that's what we want to do. And having a good title is one part in getting us more traffic because we will be visible to that target customer. Next thing you want to do is use all 13 tags. Okay? This is another step which will help us rank in search, help us be visible in search, because we're telling Etsy exactly what our listing's about. Now, one thing you want to do is to not repeat your long tail keywords in your tags as good as you can. Sometimes there are some cases in where you do repeat some things in the tags. It's not a huge deal. But just think about that these things are cross-matched, so there's no use in saying the exact same things in titles and tags. It's not going to help you rank higher for those specific keywords. So keep that in mind. So next up we have fill out all listing details. fill out all listing details. Okay? Fill out all listing details. Now, what listing details are essentially the different like categories and like size, color, all these things that are actually in your listing when you create your listing on Etsy. And this just helps Etsy know more about your listing so that it gets shown to the correct buyers, essentially. So that's another key point you want to do. Last point here, and also one of the most important things, is to use Etsy ads. Okay? Now, this is a bit controversial because I know there are people out there that say that Etsy ads are a waste of money. Go organic. Just post listings and see if they sell organically. That is not really going to cut it in 2025 and beyond, most likely, because of the competition levels and how many sellers are actually on the platform and it's growing. We need to leverage the tools that we have at our disposal to help us stand out and have an edge over our competition. So Etsy ads are a great tool because they will actually help you rank for more things. The thing is with Etsy ads is they kind of push your product out to hopefully relevant buyers, but you'll see that once you start spending money on one listing, you'll see that it actually ranks for a bunch of keywords. And the important thing there is to essentially weed out what actually works and what doesn't work so that we can actually optimize the essentially the profit on those Etsy ads. So Etsy ads are a great tool, and this is what's going to actually help scale you to the next level. Now, if you don't use Etsy ads, you need to have some sort of social media presence. You need to have some sort of Pinterest or Instagram or something going on, or your own brand that you've built up. But since we're talking kind of like new people most likely to Etsy, you're not going to have that. You're not going to have a built up following. And it's also going to take way longer if you're going like the Pinterest route and all that stuff. So I really, really do recommend Etsy ads. So let's move on to the next point. So the next point we have here is conversion. Okay? Now, so say you are seeing some sales, right? But your conversion rate is low. And that ultimately affects how profitable you are. Say you're running Etsy ads, for example. If you have a bad conversion rate, that'll directly affect basically how much money you're making. You could actually end up losing money to Etsy ads. And that's a lot of the time, that's why people are losing money, is because they're not optimized so they can optimize their conversion rate. So conversion is the next thing. So one thing we can do to increase our conversion rate is run flash sales. Okay? Big believer in this, running flash sales. So what I mean by that is run a new sale every day. I believe it's 24 hours or 48 hours. I can't remember exactly. But run sales as often and as short as possible. And the reason for that is running a sale really increases urgency. And the thing is on Etsy is when you run a sale, it'll cross out your original price. So it'll look way better, right? Because it's crossed out. The original price is this high and you're buying it for this price. And the other thing is it'll actually have a countdown timer showing how much time is left on the actual sale. So if we do that every day, this will increase your conversion rate because it increases urgency. People feel like they're going to be missing out, so they purchase. So that's one way to increase your conversion rate. The next way is to have multiple variations. So multiple variations in your listing is what I mean. So multiple variations, by that I mean offer multiple colors, offer multiple sizes, offer potentially multiple products in one listing, right? And this is something that provides value to your customer and actually increases the conversion rate unless you have too many options, right? Too many options is going to hurt you again. I found that the kind of the happy medium here is around that 5 to 6 to 7 options. Now, not 5 to 6 to 7 products, but maybe you have options for colors. Maybe you have 7 different colors or 8 different colors, then maybe you have 3 different sizes or whatever, right? Or maybe you have 2 different products, but you have maybe you have 2 different products, 2 sizes, and 8 colors. That would be okay. That would be totally okay. And that would be something I would do. And that for sure increases your conversion rate because you are, especially if you offer a little bit lower ticket ones as well in your listing, because that'll just boost your sales, increase your conversion rate, and increase sales velocity, and ultimately get your listing ranked even higher in search. So the next point we have here is realistic mock-ups. Mock-ups and clear instructions. Clear instructions. So clear instructions, what I mean by that is the person knows how to order your product, essentially, right? A lot of the time, if we get too complex and we offer too many things in our listing, it's actually hard for the customer to purchase because they have kind of this analysis paralysis, and essentially they just don't know how to actually purchase the product. So I recommend, for example, having one slide in your listing actually instructing them on how to order and what to expect after the order, as well as having mock-ups that are realistic, that show actually how your product looks, and not just like some sort of AI generated image or the same image that everybody else uses. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to add value, right? And this kind of ties into what we've already touched on with multiple variations and personalization and all these things. But essentially, adding value to your listing will then increase your conversion rate, which only helps you. It helps you make more money. It helps boost your listing, helps push your listing to more potential buyers. So think about these things when thinking about conversion. All right, so the last point we have is listing count. Another kind of controversial topic that I've heard a bit of everything, essentially, on YouTube. Some people say that you only need 5 to 10 listings to make thousands of dollars on Etsy, or you need thousands of listings to make thousands on Etsy, right? So it's kind of like, okay, who do you believe, right? What is the actual truth? Now, this is from my own experience, and this is my philosophy, especially for beginners when they're starting selling print on demand on Etsy. Now, what I'm talking about is you need to, first off, post consistently. Okay? Etsy is not a set and forget, easy money, overnight success platform. I'm sorry, it's just not that. But it can be a real business where you generate real income, and that can eventually become your full-time thing if that's what you wish. So you need to post consistently. I recommend shooting for daily. One listing daily is what you should shoot for in the beginning. Okay? Once you've gotten traction, you don't necessarily need to post daily. However, if you want to keep scaling, you should really have a routine and strategies in place to help you post listings consistently. Now, some people, they just pump out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of listings over a month, like 500 listings in 1 month. That's just not going to cut it, because most likely those listings are not going to be very good listings. Either your design is crap, your mockups are crap, your SEO is crap. You need to make sure that you're posting optimized listings consistently daily. So you're doing your research, you're doing your SEO, you're doing your due diligence with your pricing strategies, your marketing, and all of that stuff. You need to make sure that's all in place before you start doing this. You need to make sure you have a system, essentially, right? Now, for those that say you only need 5 to 10 listings to make thousands of dollars on Etsy, that is actually true. However, most shops that have success with 5 to 10 listings, there are some shops out there that have 5 to 10 listings on their store, that's it, and they're selling thousands and thousands a month. Most likely, those were not the first listings they had, okay? I myself and most Etsy sellers, about 20% of their listing catalog is what actually sells. About 80% of that doesn't really sell. That's just the reality of it, and that's how it is in business. So yes, only 20% of that is what actually makes the money, but you still need to do the work, put in the work to actually learn skills and optimize your skills and continue to grow, so that eventually you also will have that 20% of products that sell. So just to put things into context, when I started out, I went hard. I didn't have a complete strategy like you guys can have now, but I went hard. I posted at least daily, and I think I was probably at close to, I want to say 1,500 listings in 5 months, something like that, which is probably more than enough. But the thing is, I learned how to make things good, right? I learned how to make good listings. So next up, we have perfect your craft. And we've already kind of touched on this. We're not going to go too much into this, but you need to every day look for a way to improve. If it's just a small thing, totally fine. If you're watching maybe a YouTube tutorial or some design hacks or whatever it is, you need to always be looking to improve every single day, and that will reflect in your work that you post on Etsy, and that will ultimately only increase your chances of making more money, essentially. The last key point here we have is target specific events. So what I mean by events are things like Valentine's Day, Christmas, Father's Day, Mother's Day, Easter. These are all different events that happen in a year's time, right? So throughout the year, there's specific events that you can actually design for and make listings for that maybe combine different design elements like we talked about, and that speak to the target customer in your niche at that specific time. And in that way, we are essentially optimizing the search volume during that time and making more sales eventually and making more money. Now, again, as I mentioned, if you want to figure out how you can work with me and how I can help you, click the video down below in the description. Also, if you want to see like a deeper breakdown in some specific topic, make sure you comment down below. I will be sure to make a specific video for that. And with that being said, hit the subscribe button as well and the like button, and I will see you all in the next video.